something you just brought up is, what type of ancestor do you want to be? Tell me about that question and how that's come into play for you.
So as a child, injustice is a thing that would make me cry. Yeah, it didn't have to be mine. There's an inherent thing in me that is about fairness and ensuring that people are seen and heard, and that they have space. Spaces are created for people to feel psychologically safe or safer. Because I think that safe is passive and safer is active. It's always changing. And throughout my life, I've always had compassion and empathy for those who are deemed other or the underdog or marginalized. And I include myself in that. Why is our value and our contribution to the whole not valued as much as everything else or as everyone else's? Because when people ask me who are my heroes or sheroes, I'm like, I don't know their names, because they're the ones that are doing that. They're holding our systems and structures together. During the pandemic, we saw it. Suddenly those people on the front line were the heroes and were standing out on the door and clapping for them like that's going to change anything in their lives. And so I realized I've always been trying to articulate that question. It's really funny how it came about, because as I started to find my voice, a friend who was a publisher, and she was going back years now, reached out to me and said, I want you to write a book on feminism, because I think that you've got a really honest approach to it. And my response was to go and try and research and read everything else that had been written about feminism. I was like, oh my God, because I don't understand. I don't know all these different people who are feminist heroes, supposed feminist heroes, and all this.
And it's scary when someone asks for your opinion and you're like, but I need to think about everything else.
Yes, I need to. And that's the imposter syndrome, right? Really funny. I haven't thought about this depth of it for a while, because I started mind mapping. I was like, okay, so what is it that I'm seeing and what is it that I'm feeling, and how do I articulate that? And that mind map turned into my first framework, which was the precursor to Cyborg, Shamanism, what type of ancestor do you want to be? Which was the 4 freedoms, which was identity, culture, economics, and ecosystem. And then to change anything, it was like, we have to start with ourselves, and we have to be honest with ourselves and hold a mirror up and go, sometimes we're a bit shit. And the problem starts with us, and we negate it and push it out there. So I started with that. And then as I changed jobs and got into different fields and read different things and met really interesting people who I didn't always agree with, there might be something that would just go onto my mind map. I'd be like, huh. And so over years, it just became this huge mind map. And I started to recognize more patterns. And I hadn't quite given it a name. And then again, very fortunately, I was approached by somebody to write a manifesto for women on International Women's Day in 2019. And I had just started to do this kind of cyborg shamanism, playing with things. I'm not quite sure what it is. And I'm just going to write this thing from the heart. And I hated writing, by the way. And I just wrote this manifesto about how do you write a manifesto for the beautiful diversity and complexity of womanhood. You can't write one for womanhood as a single entity, because we are multifaceted and we interact and all these things. And so I wrote this thing, and I said that as women, as we are always seen in relation to somebody else, sister, mother, daughter, who's Adah? And so at the end of that, I just got to this point and went, we have to be the ones to change that. We have to be the ones that find our voice and express ourselves and all of those things. And so really the question I'm asking myself and asking all of us is, forget the idea of feminism, not forget the idea, but don't get caught up in the labels. It's about what's underneath, and what's underneath is what type of ancestor do you want to be? And that was it. That was the closing line of that manifesto.